told us not to leave the safe paths. Even the official guides, those stiff men with their Geiger counters and yellowed maps, warned us, stay within sight of the monuments. Do not enter the deep zone. Do not follow the lights. Most tourists laughed. Nervous, uncertain laughter. But not me. When I arrived at the edge of the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, I didn't want a tour. I wanted something real. Something no glossy magazine would show. I hired a local. A man named Mikhail, who met me behind the checkpoint at dusk. His car covered in dust. His eyes like old river stones, dull and unmoving. "You sure?" he asked, lighting a cigarette with trembling hands. Past the checkpoint is no joke. "I'm sure," I said, adjusting the straps on my backpack. Camera, batteries, 2 canteens of water, everything I needed. We drove into the dark. The road was cracked and broken, swallowed by roots and moss. The dying sun bled across the sky, setting the woods ablaze in shades of dying gold and blood red. Soon we reached the outskirts of Pripyat, the forgotten city. Buildings stood like the skeletons of giants, windows gaping open, trees bursting through concrete. It didn't look real. It looked like a memory half erased. Mikhail parked behind a ruined grocery store. "You stay close," he muttered, pulling a worn talisman from around his neck. Some old Orthodox symbol. If you see lights in the woods, you run the other way, no matter what you hear. He said it so seriously that I didn't argue. That night, we camped inside an abandoned apartment on the 7th floor of a crumbling building. I set up my gear near the window, aiming my camera at the empty streets bathed in moonlight. I tried to sleep. I almost succeeded, until I saw them. Faint at first, tiny flickers of white and blue deep among the blackened trees. I thought it was a trick of my tired eyes. But then they started to move. The lights bobbed and weaved like drunk fireflies, far too slow and deliberate to be natural. At first, I thought maybe it was other explorers, thrill-seekers like me. Maybe they had flashlights. But there was no beam, no scatter of light on the ground. Just these orbs, gliding without sound. Then came the whispering, soft at first, like distant singing through static. I couldn't understand the words, but the sound chilled me. A rising, falling hum that made the hairs on my arms stand straight up. I leaned closer to the window. Behind me, Mikhail stirred in his sleeping bag. "Don't watch," he grunted, voice thick with sleep and fear. "What are they?" I whispered. He didn't answer, just pulled the blanket over his head. The lights grew closer. Slow, patient, I lifted my camera, zooming in as far as the lens would allow. Through the grainy viewfinder, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Not just lights, figures, pale, slender, moving in halting, jerky motions like broken marionettes. Their bodies glowed faintly, as if something inside them was trying to escape. One of them turned. I dropped the camera, because for a split second, through the cracked lens, I saw its face, if you could call it that. No eyes, no mouth, just smooth, pale skin, stretched too tightly across an elongated skull. And somehow, it was looking at me. I woke Mikhail properly this time, shaking him hard. "They're coming closer," I hissed. He grabbed his gear with shaking hands, eyes wild. "We need to leave now," he said. "But my stuff, forget it!" Outside, the lights were moving faster now, zigzagging between the trees, following something or someone. Us, we bolted down the cracked stairwell, our footsteps echoing like gunshots in the dead building. Every shadow seemed to crawl. Every broken window looked like a mouth waiting to scream. At ground level, Mikhail led us behind the building, through an alley littered with debris and rusting cars. "They only hunt if you follow them," he gasped. If you chase the lights."
"I didn't."
I swore.
"I swear I didn't."
He didn't respond, just ran faster. In the woods, the lights flickered and twitched, moving in ways no living thing should, sometimes too fast. Sometimes frozen like statues, but always getting closer. We made it back to the car, breathless, shaking. Mikhail jammed the key into the ignition, cursing under his breath. As we tore down the broken road, I looked into the side mirror. One of them stood in the middle of the street, head tilted at an impossible angle, and it was waving. Slowly, deliberately. We didn't speak for a long time after we left the city limits of Pripyat. The trees blurred past the windows, thick and black against the bruised night sky. Finally, Mikhail broke the silence. "You shouldn't have looked at them," he said quietly. "I didn't follow them," I insisted. "I just watched." He shook his head. "That's enough. Watching invites them." I opened my mouth to argue, but my phone buzzed in my pocket. Or so I thought. I pulled it out. Black screen. Dead. Strange. It had been fully charged. I checked my camera. Nothing. The display flickered once, then died completely. Mikhail noticed. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. They're already pulling. Pulling what? He didn't answer. Instead, he slowed the car and pulled off the road onto a dirt track. "What are you doing?" I asked, nerves twisting in my stomach. "We don't drive out the same way we came," he said simply. "They wait." That made no sense, but arguing felt pointless. The man who spoke now wasn't the sardonic, half-bored local guide I had hired. He was scared. Really scared. The dirt road snaked through the woods, deeper and deeper. The headlights caught glimpses of broken fences, collapsed watchtowers, rusted-out husks of trucks from another lifetime. Somewhere out there, something moved, fast and low to the ground, just at the edges of the light. I pressed my face to the window, trying to see. For a split second, I saw them. 3 pale figures, crouched together, among the trees. Not standing anymore. Crawling, their limbs moving backward, bending wrong, their heads twisted too far, like a doll dropped and broken. And they were getting closer. We reached a clearing where Mikhail said we would rest until sunrise. "You don't understand," he said, as he unpacked some basic supplies. "They don't live like we do. Time, place. It's different for them now." "What are they?" He stared into the darkness. "They're what's left when hope burns out. That night we slept in shifts, or tried, during my turn to rest. I heard it. A whisper. Not outside. Inside the car. I turned my head slowly, heart hammering. Mikhail was sleeping in the driver's seat, mouth slightly open, hands limp in his lap. The whisper came again, brushing against my ear. "You're already seen." I jolted awake at sunrise. Mikhail was gone. His seat was empty. Door open. Footprints, his boots, leading into the forest. I shouted his name, no answer. I grabbed my bag, leaving behind the heavier equipment. Something inside me screamed to move fast. The morning was thick with fog. The trees loomed like pillars in a drowned cathedral. I followed his footprints deeper into the woods. At first, it seemed simple. Left, right, left. But the trail began to split. Multiple sets of prints, all identical, veering off in different directions. That's when I heard it, the humming again, like an old broken music box spinning too slowly, and layered beneath it, the soft slap of bare feet on wet earth. I stopped. Ahead of me, the fog shifted. A figure stood there. Not Mikhail. It wore his jacket, his boots, but the skin visible under the collar was wrong. Too pale, too stretched. It cocked its head at me. The movement was smooth, too smooth. Then it smiled. A wide, broken thing, lips splitting at the corners. It stepped forward. Behind it, others emerged from the mist, twisting, crawling, some dragging themselves like wounded animals, and every one of them had faces stolen from people I knew. School teachers, friends, Mikhail. All wrong, all distorted. They started walking. Not running, just walking. Slow, inevitable. Like they knew no matter how fast I moved, they would catch me eventually. I ran. Branches clawed at my clothes and face. I stumbled through underbrush, lungs burning. Somewhere behind me I heard them imitating me, mocking the sounds of panic. Breathless gasps, footsteps, and laughter. Horrible, broken laughter. I burst into a clearing, what looked like the remains of an old military checkpoint, and spotted a rusted-out van, door unlocked. I dove inside, slamming it shut behind me. I waited. Outside, shapes flickered between the trees. I dared not move. Hours passed, maybe minutes. Time didn't feel real anymore. I sat curled up in the van, clutching my dead camera like a talisman, listening to the soft, rhythmic tapping on the metal from outside. Tap, tap, tap. An invitation, a warning, or maybe a countdown. I don't remember falling asleep. Maybe I never did. At some point, I opened my eyes and realized the fog outside the van had thickened into something almost solid. Gray, swirling, swallowing sound. The tapping had stopped. The world was deathly quiet. For a moment, I thought maybe it was over. Maybe whatever was out there had moved on. Then I heard it. A deep, mechanical hum, like a giant machine spinning somewhere underground and layered beneath it. Sirens, the unmistakable blaring of Chernobyl's evacuation alarms, old, distorted, echoing from everywhere and nowhere. That made no sense. The sirens hadn't sounded since 1986. My hands shaking, I cracked the door open and stepped into the thick mist. Everything around me had changed. The trees were gone, replaced by rows of crumbling concrete buildings, streets cracked and ruptured by unseen forces. Flickering streetlights buzzed overhead, casting sickly pools of light across the broken sidewalks. I realized, with growing horror, that I was in Pripyat again. Only not the Pripyat I had seen before. This place was wrong, twisted, frozen in the moment of disaster. Ash drifted through the air like snow. In the distance, through the fog, I saw shapes, figures in bulky hazmat suits, moving in jerky, broken patterns, limping, dragging equipment, crumpling to the ground, only to rise again. Their masks were cracked open, revealing faces that weren't faces at all. Just blank, pale flesh stretched over empty skulls. They moved without purpose, endlessly replaying the final hours before everything fell apart. One of them turned toward me. Even from this distance, I could feel its gaze, not through eyes, but through something deeper. It pointed, and the others began to follow. Slow at first, then faster, then running. I fled through the ruins. Buildings loomed around me like teeth. Everywhere I turned, the city reshaped itself. Streets leading back to the same intersection, staircases climbing into blank walls, doors opening into bottomless pits of shadow. I was trapped inside a memory I didn't belong to. Inside the reactor's echo. I stumbled into what must have once been a school. Rotting desks, children's toys scattered across the floor. A chalkboard still covered in the ghostly outline of lessons long forgotten. I pressed myself into a corner, trying to catch my breath. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a soft sound, not footsteps this time. Scraping. Something dragging itself across the floor. Slowly, relentlessly. I peered around the edge of a broken doorway, and there they were. Not the figures in suits, the pale ones. Dozens of them, their elongated limbs twisting and cracking as they moved. Their skin was translucent. veined with dark lines. Their faces, blank expanses of flesh, twitched and quivered, as if remembering how to be human. They didn't run. They didn't rush. They just moved, inevitable, unstoppable, and they copied. When I shifted my weight, one of them jerked its body the same way. When I raised my hand slightly, another lifted its emaciated arm, mimicking me, mocking me. I tried to stay perfectly still. For a moment, it worked. They froze, swaying slightly, like weeds under dark water. But I couldn't hold my breath forever. When I gasped involuntarily, stumbling backward, they moved. All of them. Faster now. Their mouths tearing open along invisible seams. No teeth, just gaping holes, and a single unified whisper. One of us, one of us, one of us. I ran through corridors that twisted in impossible ways, down stairwells that ended in ceilings. Everywhere I turned, reflections flickered in broken windows, my own face melting into theirs. I burst through a final door and into a playground. The rusted skeleton of a Ferris wheel loomed overhead, spinning slowly in a wind that didn't exist. And waiting at the base of the wheel was something larger. Something worse. A pale one, but taller than the others, its form shifting and writhing like smoke. Its arms reached toward me, distorting the air. It had my face. Not the twisted mimicry of before. My real face. The creature stood still, arms outstretched, waiting for me. Its skin shimmered like heat rising from asphalt, not solid, not fully real. Its face, my face, smiled. Behind it, the pale ones gathered in a loose circle. Their bodies jerked and spasmed in a slow, hypnotic rhythm, imitating me, inviting me, claiming me. I stumbled backward. No, I muttered, shaking my head. I'm not yours. The larger pale one tilted its head, the exact same way I had tilted mine when I'd first entered the city. The realization hit like a blow. They weren't just copying me. They were becoming me. And with each mistake, each moment of fear, each glance into the forbidden, I had given them more of myself. I turned and ran, not thinking, not planning, just moving. The world around me warped and buckled. Buildings bled into one another. Streets ended in walls of mist. Everywhere I looked, I saw myself. Reflections in shattered glass, smiling, waving, waiting. Somehow, through sheer blind instinct, I found the van again. Mikhail's van, still parked where we left it. I threw myself into the driver's seat, slamming the door shut. The keys were still in the ignition. By some miracle, the engine coughed to life. I tore down the broken road, dodging debris, headlights barely piercing the mist. Behind me, the pale ones followed. Not running, just moving. Always moving. I didn't dare look in the rearview mirror. Hours, or minutes, later, the mist thinned, the trees returned, the radiation signs, the fences, the cracked asphalt. I was out. I had made it. I laughed, a dry, broken sound. Relief washing over me in trembling waves. The checkpoint appeared ahead, abandoned now, but real, solid. I rolled past it, breathing hard, freedom. It wasn't until I stopped at a gas station 2 towns away that I realized something was wrong. Inside the bathroom, I splashed cold water on my face, looked up, and froze. The man in the mirror stared back, my features, my hair, my clothes. But the eyes were wrong. Too dark, too wide, too still. I lifted my hand to touch my face. The reflection didn't move. It just smiled. A slow, patient smile that wasn't mine. Outside in the parking lot, the air shimmered. For a split second, I thought I saw the faint, flickering glow of lights among the trees. Ghost lights. Still watching. Still waiting. I never left Pripyat. Not really. I was still there. And now, so are you. 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 So are you.